Hey everybody, welcome back. Let me just give you a little bit of an idea of what you should be looking out for when you watch these little videos from me in every module. I want to present them because I think it's good for us to kind of check in together like this in a sort of more formal way during every module. This gives me an opportunity to give you all a heads up about some issues or concepts or questions that might come up in the reading that you do later on in the module. Gives me an opportunity to set up some of your reading as well so that you can hopefully approach it with a little more sense of confidence, especially if you're going to be reading some philosophical texts or theological texts that are a little unusual or a little challenging. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with reading a text that's unusual or challenging, but it is helpful sometimes to have been given a heads up as to what to expect. So that's what I'm trying to do with these videos. Good idea maybe to take some notes while you're watching these things. Uh, Take special notes about vocabulary or words that I use and how I define them, because they're going to come up over and over again, and they'll certainly come up in the reading that you're doing during the module itself. So here we go. The title of this module is Theological Anthropology. By anthropology, we mean the general academic study about human beings, human culture, what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a human being in a culture. Theological, or to use the word theological to describe anthropology, refers to the way in which there is also a study of what human beings think about God, or what human beings think about the relationship of God to the world or the world to God. That's what theology is proper, the study of God or the study of what human beings think about God. To say that an anthropology is theological means it's a study of humanity, a study of what it means to be a human being, but in light of what is also thought about God. Or theological anthropology, in other words, is coming up with ideas about what it means to be properly human, but to be properly human in a universe that includes God or includes an idea of God. One of the benefits of taking this course, Moral Aspects of Medicine, in a Catholic university is that we can include a consideration of God or ideas about God in with all the other kinds of things that we'll discuss. So the two texts that I'm having you read for today, the first 5 chapters of the book of Genesis, and a number of paragraphs from a document called Gaudium et Spes, well, these two texts will present an image or a set of images of human beings or what it means to be a human being that we can use as a kind of contrast and complement to all the other things that we'll be reading this semester. So first, the first reading, the first 5 chapters of the book of Genesis. Genesis is the very beginning of the Bible that Christians consider the inspired Word of God. It's the very beginning of the Torah, which is the set of books in the Old Testament that the Jews considered to be the authoritative handing on of teachings about the beginning of the world and teachings about the law from God to Moses. Genesis gives us a picture of the whole universe in its creation at the very beginning. And this is what we usually refer to in sacred texts as a cosmology. A cosmology is an organized treatment of the very beginning of things, the beginning of the universe, the beginning of human beings, the beginning of everything that's considered important in a culture. Genesis presents 2 different versions of the story of the creation of mankind. One which is basically the first chapter of Genesis, and then the other which is basically chapter 2 and what follows. And in your reading of these stories about the beginning of the universe and the creation of humanity, take note at what happens between God and the human beings, or what happens between the human beings and each other, both the good things and the bad things. Because what's being presented to us in this kind of narrative form is a whole set of values and presumptions about what it means to be a human being, as opposed to what it means to be another kind of animal, or what it means to be a tree, or what it means to be a cloud, or what it means to even be a concept. Human beings are very special in the universe in light of the book of Genesis because of their special relationship to God, how God has put them in the world. The second reading, which is a set of excerpts or paragraphs from a document called Gaudium et Spes, you should know comes from the 1960s and was a document agreed to and drafted and written by almost 3,000 Catholic bishops during a very important meeting that they had in Rome called Vatican II. The purpose of the whole document of Gaudium et Spes is to talk about basically how these bishops felt the Catholic Church and the wider Christian tradition should be in a relationship with the wider world, the Christian world and the natural world and the world of culture and all kinds of other things. In the paragraphs that I'm having you read, they lay out specifically what is at the foundation of their ideas of what it means to be a human being. And there are 7 what we call constitutive elements of the human person given in paragraphs 12 to 18. Now, constitutive means or refers to those things that are so much a part of a concept or so much a part of a reality of a thing that without them, the thing wouldn't be the thing it is. So basically, the bishops are saying that in these 7 particular things outlined in paragraphs 12 to 18, these 7 particular things are so important in human beings that if a human being didn't have one of those things or didn't possess one of the things, well, they wouldn't be a human being. They would be something else. So that these seven elements in particular are particularly important to coming up with a theological anthropology, that is an organized description of who the human being is in light of our understanding or belief about God. Well, these things are so important that they provide a foundation for all other kinds of religious treatments of these texts. Now, the reason why we're doing this now and reading these texts now is we can't begin to talk about health and illness or healthcare policy or bioethics until we have some kind of adequate understanding of what it means at foundation to be a human person, to be a human being. Because health and illness and bioethics and healthcare policy and clinical practice and all these other practical things are basically dealing with human beings as human beings. So until we have an idea of what a human being is, then we really can't talk much about what health or illness or bioethical policy should be. So enjoy your reading. I expect some interesting reactions and responses on the discussion board, and we will continue to use these kinds of things, these kinds of readings as a foundation for all the other stuff that we'll be doing throughout the rest of the course. So be back to me with any questions or concerns, and we'll see you at the next module.